And with that, we continue in the second half by looking at the opportunities the president has with CR for stimulus and others ways to get sums of money to you faster than the Build Back Better Act. The concept of CR for stimulus derives from the simple notion of getting money into a body of legislation that will pass that has an inherent deadline and is not particularly complicated. Now, ironically, there's another body of legislation out there that fits the bill today, but does it belong in there? Well, obviously not, but does that mean we can't do it? Well, maybe we can. Is there another alternative to CR for stimulus? Yeah, Russia for stimulus. I don't know what you would call this. Russia for Rubio for stimulus? Yeah, I'm not joking. There is another body of legislation that is likely to pass by the end of today, if not by the end of the week. And the body of legislation is a bill in the Senate that's going to sanction Russia for its efforts against Ukraine. The bill will pass, insiders believe, because the group in the senators, which include Marco Rubio, Republican, Bob Menendez, Democrat, is a very bipartisan group. They really just braid each other's hair. And what do they agree upon? That Russia needs to be sanctioned for its efforts against Ukraine. The bill's going to get done, and the money's going to go at the law is going to be signed by the president. So adding a stimulus check in there sounds about as illogical because it certainly doesn't belong in there, but it's very consistent with CR for stimulus. So what do you think this hashtag campaign would be called? Rubio for rubles? Stimulus for Stalin? Stalin for stimulus? It makes sense, but I'm not joking. Because if there's any body of legislation that's going to pass, it's bipartisan, and you just slide in a stimulus check, then there you go. Now let's go back to things that does not revolve around Congress, but the president himself, and we're going to look at those items right now. There's a series of ways the president can get you more money, and the first one is changing guidelines. The president is not the one actually changing the guidelines. He's just giving encouragement for the agency who has the authority to change the guidelines. Let's look at what's going on. There are several federal agencies that are established under the Constitution or the Charter Agreement that says, you know what, you are in charge of determining how you do your operations. SBA has their own rules about how SBA is to operate. FEMA has its own rules. OSHA has its own rules about how OSHA operates. President can give guidance, but their rules derive from what they are allowed to create. Well, who do you get checks from that has their own set of rules? Social Security Administration. SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad Benefits, Veterans Benefits. Forget about SS200, which is dead on the water. It's never going to happen. It's a body of legislation proposed from over a year ago. Never going to happen. Why? Because this legislation needs a recon, needs bipartisan support. So what are you looking for in SS200? You're looking for $200 more per month. Well, how about we get $200 more per month somewhere else? Is this SS200 2022 version? Is this SS200 2.0? It is. And guess what it is? It's FIST stimulus in part. One of the provisions of the FIST stimulus is to take a pot of money and modify it. How? By removing the benchmark and replacing it. Under FIST stimulus, one of the provisions that is whole and part for the course is remove COLA as your benchmark for determining how much your benefits go up year after year. COLA is a benchmark established many decades ago that says your benefits will go up year after year based upon where COLA is at the end of the prior year. Now, if COLA is zero, then your benefits don't go up, and that's been happening for many, many years. COLA is a horrible benchmark. It doesn't move. And the only reason COLA came in at 5.9% this year is because inflation was out of control last month of December. Well, Department of Labor released that latest number update on inflation for December 2021 about 2 weeks ago. And it came in exactly where I predicted it was going to be, 7.5%. Now, what does FIST stimulus look to do? FIST stimulus, a bill, recon, Democrats voting, House, Senate. What does it look to do? Replace COLA with then the benchmark of inflation. Obvious? Yeah. You know what I'm about to say. Why does the president pick up the phone and call Social Security Administration and say, replace the COLA benchmark of inflation? He can. He can. Why spend months doing a recon, a bill, a voting, deal with Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, back and forth, and progressive and moderate Democrats, and just pick up the phone and call Social Security Administration, say, replace COLA with inflation and give people more money? You're done. You're done. You're done in like 15 minutes, shorter than this video. You're done. The president could pick up the Social Security Administration's phone direct dial number, call them and say, hey, it's the president. Change COLA, do inflation, started, March or April 2022, and away we go. Guess what? That would give you 3% more per month starting as soon as as soon as they change that guidance. And 3% more per month would be a lot more money lifetime than you would have ever gotten under SS 200. Done. Very, very simple. The president can do that with a lot of other things. Now, as the remainder of this stimulus can't do the remainder, which is changing laws, the asset cap, the income cap, the marriage penalty, can't do that under the Constitution because those are actually laws. The president cannot remove a law and do another law across the board. So what's then the next option for the president? This is really quite fascinating. The president has a lot of leeway. And the one we just saw, where you change benchmarks, president's already done that one. When did he last do it? He did it with COLA. He did it with SNAP. He picked up the phone and called the Department of Agriculture for SNAP back in October, saying you need to pay out more money, and that raised your SNAP benefits 25% lifetime. But the bigger one, if the money exists, is the following: repurposing existing money. Can the president repurpose existing money and send it out as a stimulus check? He absolutely can. So where would this money be? It would be in programs, in agencies of the federal government that was dedicating money under the first, second, or third stimulus package, and the program is expired, but the money is still there. The president has an inherent authority to repurpose that money and send it out to you. We saw this twice in the Trump administration, one time happening and one time didn't happen. What was it? Let's look at the situation first. President Donald Trump understood that FPUC, which goes on top of UI, had expired. Millions of Americans need that extra unemployment boost, was called. But there was no more money for it. He did not want to go back to Congress to have it done that way because he said maybe it would never pass. So he said, can I just get people a boost of extra money with something that's sitting around that's unused? He found it. In FEMA, there was extra money in FEMA initially from the earliest months of COVID. They had their FEMA program for COVID funds, and the program was over, but the funds were still there because they didn't use them all up. So he picked up the phone, called FEMA. It was not executive order. Picked up the phone, called FEMA, and said, I want you to dedicate this as an additional round, as additional monies to be helped for people on unemployment. And it became LWA, the FPUC replacement. FEMA's money, which was for federal disaster relief, suddenly became unemployment assistance money. It can be done. It's as simple as a phone call. Now, there was another opportunity that President Trump had, but he didn't go with it. And ultimately, I believe this is why the elections turned as they turned. Had he really done this, I think he would have won. And what's at issue? There was a confirmed $550 billion of money at SBA, Small Business Administration. It was COVID 1, COVID 2, first and second stimulus package money. In the case of SBA, by the way, they had more than just the number of packages I cover on the channel. They had these midterm packages, so they were getting replenishings of funds. The programs were over. The business programs were over, but the funds were still there. So it was a lot. It was $550 billion. He had the ability to pick up the phone, call the head of Small Business Administration, Javita Carranza, it's a federal agency, say, I want you to repurpose that money as a stimulus check, send it out, or send it out as a different type of stimulus. He didn't. And the money sat there, and he didn't. And I think this would have made a big difference across the board. Had he done this, this would have been a dramatic change of events. Now, Joe Biden can do this as well. The only part of the equation I don't know is if that money is still actually there, not necessarily the SBA money, but any other sums of money. If it is there, he should do it. Now, let's turn to Bernie, Nancy, Pramila, and Ron Klain, who are really just acting very peculiar in recent days. Ron Klain, of course, is the president's chief of staff. What's at issue here is that To get the four stimulus recon, the Build Back Better Act done, you need to have both moderate and progressive Democrats on plate together, and they have not been on plate. We have the newest comments by Pramila Jayapal in the last 24 hours that says that the vote on the recall will happen March 1st. It's just a fake date. She just picked out a fake date out of the sky. Nancy Pelosi confirms it's a fake date. Pramila Jayapal is not even a senator. She says a vote in the Senate, you don't determine when things go for a vote. I don't determine when things go for a vote. It's like me saying that Chuck Schumer, in my opinion, will call a vote on March 20th because that's a beautiful day. It's the first day of Easter or first day of spring. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. That's number one. Number two is Bernie Sanders said that the SALT cap and the Build Back Better Act it has been removed, and it's a horrible provision that hurts millions of Americans, gives money to rich people. Everything he just said was all wrong. It was not removed. It doesn't hurt anyone. Then we have the President's Chief of Staff, Ron Klain, really going after Joe Manchin with just hit piece after hit piece, saying he's a horrible senator. Does this look good for the recon? It doesn't. But yet, brand new details tonight. Will the recon get passed? Yes, says a new report. So now this is really fascinating. There's a lot of new economic reports out tonight, and you're hearing this for the first time on Evenings Lalate. And among them is the concern that the U.S. economy is stalling. In doing that discussion, there was a lot of brand new analyst reports that came out tonight. Goldman Sachs is out tonight, and Bank of America, Bank of America, B of A. So B of A's head of global economic research, Ethan Harris, says that he believes that the U.S. economy is stalling, and he has four reasons for it. He believes that first quarter 2022, which we're in right now, the growth rate will drop from an initial 4% growth rate to 1%, basically flat. And that full year, the growth rate will be 3.6%, down from 4%. Why? He says four reasons. Less fiscal support, the four stimulus recon, tighter Fed policy, and retreat in inventory build. And finally, Omicron. So as to why he's saying this, he says the following quote tonight. Now, this is just a financial guy. He's not a congressman. He has no insight that you and I have any more than he does. But he says, we now expect a fiscal package, the Build Back Better Act, about half the size with less front-loaded fiscal stimulus to pass. We think it will boost 2022 growth by just 15 to 20 basis points compared to our initial estimate of 50 basis points. Risk of a negative growth first quarter are significant in our view. So very interesting. He believes the Build Back Better Act will pass, but substantially less, smaller in size, and that more of the money will be less front-loaded fiscal stimulus. Again, that's just his opinion. But what's very interesting is that he does believe it's going to pass. So he's not doing the analysis of any of the particular checks across the board. Now, let's go right into what's at issue and why it's important that the Build Back Better Act be mentioned in this category. Tonight, there's a lot of reports out talking about growth. And the growth discussion helps you. I'm going to tell you why. The growth discussion is basically saying the U.S. economy may not see any growth in the year 2022 and may actually lose growth, actually get smaller this quarter. If you have less growth, if you're stalling in growth, you need stimulus to go out. So this actually helps the narrative for recon. If you've been with this channel for over a year, you remember what Mitch McConnell used to always say, what the Republicans used to say. We're doing too well. We're doing too great. We don't need any more money. Everyone's very well off. Everyone has a lot of savings. Everyone's spending a lot of money. Consumer confidence is all great. We're all doing really well. We don't need stimulus. The data tonight is all bad. And this is what he's saying. He's saying, first, less fiscal support. That is the recon. He thinks that the recon is needed to be done. Tighter federal policy, Omicron, and this is after several other people saying the same things. Let's go back to last Friday. Last Friday, the Consumer Confidence Report was released and showed the Americans are less confident in the U.S. economy than just a few months before because they say that inflation is growing faster than their salaries. New tonight, also tonight, I told you a lot of new stuff tonight, is the ISM Manufacturing Survey, which showed that the paces for new orders of manufacturing are substantially down from the last quarter. Again, this is less growth. Then Mark Zandi, who's chief economist at Moody's Analytics, says inventories are back down to where they were pre-pandemic. So it says we're not growing anymore. We're going back to pre-pandemic levels. But Goldman Sachs is a little bit more negative in the situation. It says that it looks at the growth marks for this quarter and says the growth will be flat. That the growth will not be flat, but will be actually negative. It says the economy will contract, will get smaller by 2% this quarter, when they initially thought we were going to grow by about 1%. Growth is likely to slow abruptly in 2022, says Goldman economist Ronnie Walker in a new report tonight. And fiscal support fades in the near term. Virus spreads weighs on services, spending prolongs supply chain. Q1 is likely to be particularly soft because the fiscal drag will be accompanied by a hit from Omicron. Let me translate this all for you because I know it's a lot in just a short period of time. What's an issue is that on Afternoons LA today and the videos yesterday, I said it's getting messy because the economic data is all really bad. And what does that mean for us? I said, I don't really know what it means for us when it's messy. Tonight, we know what it means for us. Messiness is helping the push for the recon. I'll tell you why. One, we have everyone in agreement that Omicron is not going away, and that Omicron is causing its own inflationary event where people are calling in sick and cannot work. And when you call in sick and cannot work, the employer has to spend more money on part-time or overtime labor and makes less profits on his business or her business. Number two, we have the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is raising interest rates starting in the month of March and may have as many as 5 interest rate spikes this year at 1/4 basis points. That means that any debt you carry is going to cost a lot more money. Credit card debt, mortgage debt, student loan debt will all cost more money. Number three, inflation is not growing away just yet. And despite how the Federal Reserve is trying to come in with those policies starting in March, you're spending more money and are not making more money at home. And so you're putting out more money across the board. Next, we also have the concerns about supply chain. Supply chain is still really not solved itself. And finally, we have businesses contracting, so not growing. And finally, of course, Vladimir Putin. Earlier today on Afternoons LA, I detailed what happened with Vladimir Putin, which is basically the UN Security Council says, you know what? You have 100,000 troops brand new at the border that were not there a week ago. There's a problem. It looks like you are trying to invade Ukraine. This causes the price at the pump for gasoline to go up because Ukraine and Russia is an oil issue. So all this is signaling that bad data from the Federal Reserve, bad data from inflation, bad data from Omicron, bad data from growth, bad consumer confidence. Last Friday, labor is not getting compensated more, and bad data from Russia. What's the way you buffer off of this? Saying things are bad, folks. We need stimulus. This is where we haven't really seen in almost, I would say, 9 months, maybe upwards of 10 months, where there's so much bad economic data out there that you really have to put your hands up and say, hey, we really need help. And for anyone like a Joe Manchin, which I don't know if he's even saying it right now anymore, that to provide stimulus would ramp up inflation. No, that's not the problem. That's not what's causing inflation. Consumer spending is not causing inflation. Labor problems is what's causing inflation. Russia's causing inflation. Corporate growth of stalling is causing inflation. And rising interest rates will not particularly help all segments of the economy at the same time. So there you go. A lot of details across the board. Coming up tomorrow morning on Mornings LA, I'm going to go over all these incredible provisions of this recon, but I want to go right into the housing assistance just right to end it tonight. The housing assistance is money where you can get money right now. It is rent, utilities, mortgages, is more. Get that newsletter tonight. If you're a member, it comes out about 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're not a member, sign up today. There is another round of rent, utilities, and mortgages you get right today. And how much is it? It's a lot. When you get this round, I want you to get it out to at least May as your goal. Can't get to May, then bring it back to April. Can't get to April, but then bring it back to March. Get rent. 6 places: City Hall, City House Authority; County Hall, County House Authority; State Hall, State House Authority. And the keywords you can say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. Then get utility assistance. Get then combo items like Art Sullivan and Nisi got across the board. Bring those monies in, because this is where the big money is to buffer your bills. Remember, when we're talking about these combo numbers, like Mark here at 50,000, he's at over 100,000. When we're talking about these combo numbers, here's Nisi. That was Mark before he got his third item. There's Nancy. When we're talking about these numbers for rent, we're talking about these numbers for utilities. This is all money that alleviates financial pressure in the household. If you see inflation hitting hard and it's impacting your livelihood, then get these additional rounds of money. And if you don't feel it hitting hard yet, but you feel sort of, maybe it will hit hard eventually, get the money right now, because it's the start of the year. What I've always taught viewers is don't wait till the last second. Get the money right now. We did this last October, where I said, you know what? It's going to be the holidays. People's bills are going to go up. It's the holiday season. Your water, your electric, your gas is going to go up. Go get another round of utilities right now. It's January. You may not have felt the pressure of Omicron economically or the impact of the Federal Reserve's pending interest rate spikes next year, but this is more reason to go get the money right now and get it across the board. It's featured in the shows throughout tonight, and if you want to learn about those sums of money, tune into the shows coming up next. Is Evening's Countdown at 6 o'clock. Then Evening's Extra at 8 o'clock. And before that, home stream stimuluses more as well. And with that, subscribe. I want you, Probably's Incredible Family, hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Stay informed, stay focused. Join me throughout the night with shows also at 9, 10, 11:30. And stay with Ally for more.